後悔してる。ママに会いたいよ。
Heads up, Wonder Egg Priority features a ton of very serious themes from depression to self-harm to suicide, so if you are uncomfortable with those topics, you might want to click off. Also, to avoid the yellow $sign, the S word will be swapped out with Wonder Egg, so yeah. I'll be discussing episode 12 in this video, so if you haven't seen that yet, go watch it first. And if you do end up watching and enjoying this video, remember to subscribe and leave a like for more videos in the future. With that said, let's get into it. A core part of Wonder Egg is the idea that these girls are working towards the goal of saving someone important to them. However, the actual relationship between these girls and their deceased friends tends to be a bit more complicated. Ai, in the new episode, mentions how she knew nothing about Koito. Rika, who is totally racked with guilt about Chiemi dying, also doesn't really have a relationship with her. Sure, Chiemi came to her handshake events repeatedly, but they weren't really friends outside of that. It was a fan relationship. Momo and Neru each know their egg friends much better, obviously. However, they aren't exactly people that they can be close to if they were revived. And that's because those relationships were strained in the moments before they even led to the events of the death. In every one of these cases, there is this unclearness about why they're trying to revive them and what they'll do afterwards. But most importantly, are they really trying to revive these girls at all? I remember this question first came up very early in the show when I asked Aka and Uraaka about Neru. She says that Neru is trying to save her sister, but they just respond asking if that's really true. Rika constantly corrected Ai that Chiemi wasn't her friend, but just her wallet. And yes, she is full of guilt and trying to hide that, but at the same time, she isn't really lying when she says that they aren't really friends. In almost all of these cases, the girls are doing incredibly difficult things which seem to be very selfless, but in reality, they're just acting out of their own selfishness. In every case, they're actually just trying to find a solution to their own guilt. They don't see themselves as someone who's worth saving, so instead they put someone else in that line. Something along the lines of thinking that addressing an issue that affects me myself is not something that's worth my time, but if it's for someone else, they're more important than I am, so I can save them. But effectively, this idea, and the last episode in tandem with it, shift the true meaning behind the series from saving their best friends to trying to save themselves. Which, of course, leads us into episode 12, in which when Ai finally breaks her Wonder Egg, she gets a surprise when she sees that it's herself inside the egg. Aka and Uraaka explain the concept of parallel worlds and how whenever a decision is made or not made, a new universe is created to suit both that situation and the opposite. Obviously leading to the realization that this version of Ai had, well, Wonder Egged herself. Meaning even our own version of Ai has thought about these things. This kinda hit really hard for me, as for a long time I struggled with that sort of thinking myself. Specifically, it got really bad a few years ago, and the idea of being confronted by a version of myself who either went through with it or didn't, honestly kind of nauseating for me and very overwhelming. However, the core theme of this episode seems to be in line with the realization that I came up with myself back then. As both versions of Ai begin talking to each other, Egg Ai says that she doesn't know who Koito is, meaning that the big difference in this world is that they never met, leading to our Ai immediately understanding what happened. There was no one there to reach out for her. There was no one to pull her out of her thoughts or to save her. Egg Ai was happy to hear that some version of her was able to make a friend, but when she hears that it isn't just Koito but also Neru, Rika, and Momo, she's shocked. With no inclusion of Koito, there's no catalyst for Egg Ai to ever see herself as someone who's worthy of love or life in general. Even our own Ai says that Koito was amazing just because she talked to her. Something as simple as reaching out seemed so out of place that I didn't think that she was worth talking to, let alone being saved, yet here was Koito doing that. As the See No Evils appear, our Ai starts beating them away, telling her other self that she will protect her. And just like the gymnast in episode 2, Egg Ai is amazed with this other version of herself. Even if we compare Ai to the girl that we saw at the beginning of episode 1, they are almost entirely different people. Now she's strong, more confident, she can stand on her own, and it's hard to imagine her without friends around her. The wonder and amazement on Egg Ai's face is so clear, and it almost feels like she's looking at some kind of superhero or something. There is a disconnect between herself and our Ai. Despite who they are being the same, they are nowhere near the same person. And when you think about it, I mean, it kind of makes sense. One of the core themes being presented in this episode is the idea of regret and finality. When someone Wonder Eggs themselves, that's it. There's no growth, there's no getting better, there's no friends, and there are no more chances. We see a moment where Egg Eye says how much she regrets what she did, and she sees this amazing person that she could have grown into, knowing that she never has the chance to become that person because she took that away from herself. And that's very much the thinking that saved my own life back then. I was in a spot where just about every aspect of my life had kind of crashed down around me, and trust me, the thought was there. But if it had happened, nothing would have changed. I would have never spent a year in Japan, I would have never made new friends, I would have never started a new YouTube channel and had so much fun talking to all these new people that it connected me to. There were a lot of moments in this episode which opened some very weird thoughts, but there was one specifically that really resonated with me. Early on in the episode, Egg Eye asked the question of, is our eye happy? And there was this pause for a moment before her eyes well up with tears and she says yes, she is very happy. And this moment just blew me away. And the reason for that is that it brought me back to a very specific time. Last year I was biking home from work and there was this moment when I just kind of realized how different my life was. All of the things that overwhelmed me before were just not there anymore. I was surrounded by great people in an amazing new place, and it just hit me that I was actually happy. I remember talking to my friend Kevin later that night and specifically mentioning how I was genuinely happy for the first time in what felt like forever, and how I was so surprised to realize that things had just become different. This episode was hugely impactful because it hit so many moments of my own life, from deeply struggling with Wonder Egg thoughts and attempts, to the hope I held out for change, to a difference between where my life ended up going against where it could have ended. I think this episode, and on a bigger scale this series as a whole, is vitally important and an absolute piece of art. The way it portrays all these themes and ideas, and the way that it can present them in a very visceral and real way, despite being in this over-the-top, unrealistic world that it uses, is something that very few anime have been able to accomplish. And I really think that it's one that's going to hold a very special place in my heart because of it. If any of you are struggling with this sort of thing, just know it does get better. But the only way that can happen is if you give it a chance to do so. I'll post some links and phone numbers in the description for anyone who might need them. I am rooting for you, and you are worth saving. But that's where I'm going to end this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more anime content in the future. You can also check out the description for my Discord and my Patreon if you're looking to support the channel a little bit extra, or just to be a more active part of the community. As always, a big thank you goes out to our patrons, with our Dai Yokai Aikerochu, Jacob Wiley, and Iffy Babes, our Yokai NL Cruz, Bloodwolfmon, Jamie Heck, Joker Rose, and Lucifina Akuma, and our Hanyo Anthony Hogan, ICE Wallow Cum, Kiwi Dog, Love the Kiwi, Michael Grayco, Nega Kitty, Samantha Olsen, Savage Camel, and Simon Electric. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember to stay excellent.